So today we're going to talk about the mkhonto. It's also called the Military Veterans Association, as you can see. You probably can't, but that's fine. Basically, they were the ANC's army in a way. So, move this. So a little bit of background on the MK is that the whole translation of the thing that I screamed in the beginning is Spear of the Nation. And it's really just in Zulu and, excuse my pronunciation, but Nwasa, which is the armed wing of the ANC, which is why I said it's kind of like their army and stuff, yeah. And so the MK was created on December 16th, 1961, and it was actually the anniversary of the Battle of Blood River, which we talked about like a lot and was in plenty of our tests, so you should already know about this. So why the MK was created? The ANC decided to abandon the path of civil disobedience in favor of armed confrontation. Basically, this whole like being nice and stuff was no longer working, and they were like, yo, like let's just start fighting everybody, right? So they did that, and it was this whole thing, that violence was the best answer to everything, and yeah, it was really upsetting, but they did it anyways. So what were the ideas of the MK? So the idea of the armed wing had been gestating, which I had to look up, means basically develop the idea. It was developing in their idea for a really long time. They had always thought they were going to go this route, but they never realized that it would take a whole massacre to start, which, if you remember, we talked about Sharpeville, which that's sort of the spear point of why they started the MK. And yeah. So, what were the long-term effects of MK? And someone didn't move the pictures properly. So the long-term effects was the MK was in many ways a failure. They didn't really work as best as they should have, and its creation gave the government the green light to launch an all-out assault on the liberation movement. So this means that the government was like, yo, all these black people think that, or I'm sorry, non-whites, basically, so black, colored, Indian, Asian, all those people, we gotta kill them, or we gotta do something about them because they're messing up the feng shui in here, basically. So the result is that the first phase of the armed struggle lasted only a couple of years, so it really didn't do much as the ANC leaders had thought it would, even though it was this huge, full frontal, like, assault on white people, which, why wouldn't you? So, the MK was successful in ways that showed that African people were not afraid to take up arms against the government. So this was sort of a spearhead, as I had said. It was the first time that black people, not white people, obviously, because that's who they were fighting. Like, black people, Indians, and Asians were all like, we're not going to handle this anymore, we're not going to take this. And they basically just shut out the white people and were like, no, this is not how we want this. And so they fought. And the fact that MK even existed helped keep the spirit of resistance alive during the dark days of the late 1960s and early 1970s. This whole resistance was actually sort of a light in all this darkness, and it was very good for the non-whites, basically. And here are the white reactions, the white people, complaining about what blacks were doing. So because of the protests called against the government decisions to leave the Commonwealth, thus resulting in the government crackdown on the stay-at-home, was empathetic. Also, all police was canceled and tanks were sent to townships. And I got this picture of this white guy who looks like he's smiling, holding a poor dead body of a child. So there was a lot of messy things going on, but it was the whole, you shouldn't have to stay home. You shouldn't stay home and you should actually fight back. So they were encouraging like civilians to fight against this whole thing, which was really messed up. And then despite the ANC as a they kind of made ANC like a terrorist body. And they completely destroy it. This organization lacked any experience of armed struggle, and its members had no military training. So they were just people. They were literally just people you see every day. And it was faced with the might of the most powerful armed forces in the world, so the white government fighting against black people, which that was what that was. In addition, by embracing the violence, the ANC risked surrendering the moral high ground and alienating many of its moderate allies in the anti-apartheid struggle. So for them to go around and kill everybody went very, very harshly against what they usually stood for, which was being kind and Zen and stuff. So they no longer, they didn't think that was okay anymore, basically. And so the global opinion was now increasingly on its side. So basically, like America, Europe, I don't know if Russia ever cares. Did they ever? I don't know. But they basically got more on the side of the ANC after they decided to basically fight against the white people, government, and the apartheid movement. And it also risked squandering some of the international goodwill if it came to be perceived as a movement committed to violence. So had they started with this violence and continued with the violence, then global output or input would have been far different than it was then. And that's it.